Hey guys, hello and welcome to Naveed for Speed. This car right here is the Mazda MX-30. It's the one with the rotary engine, and in this video I'm going to be answering some fundamental questions about this car. So what is it? Well, this is the Mazda MX-30. Now you might already be familiar with Mazda's small SUV. It was introduced in 2020 and came powered purely by electric motors and batteries. But unfortunately, the flaw that it had was that its range was only 124 miles. So Mazda decided to solve that problem by adding an engine. And the engine that it added was a rotary engine. Now, again, we've already seen rotary engines from Mazda. Back in the days with cars like the Mazda RX-8, Mazda used the rotary engine to increase performance. But for this car, there's a totally different purpose. They're using the rotary engine to increase the range. Now, together with the rotary engine and the electric motors, the batteries and the electric motors, we're looking at a range of around 400 miles. So this car seems like it's probably a good choice for most people who commute longer distances. So what does it look like? Well, upon first glances, when I first saw the Mazda MX-30 back in 2020, I thought it looked quite retro. It looked pretty cool. The rotary version looks exactly the same as the electric version. You've got these this front grille with the Mazda logo, which is the Mazda hallmark. You've got these very slim headlights on either side. And as we move towards the side of the car, first and foremost, you get this badge which shows that this car is the rotary version of the MX-30. And you'll notice that there's no rear door handle, and that's because you can open the front door like so, but then you have to open the rear door by pulling a latch on the inside and opening it as such. Now, you can't open the rear door without opening the front door, and one of the problems that you might encounter with this car is you do not want to be closing the rear door with the front door closed, because that'll damage the car. Mazda won't like that if I did that. Anyway, as we move towards the back of the car, this really cool feature that says Mazda on there as well. You can see the rear roof line is a little bit hunched a bit. And if I can open the boot, you get this hatchback style boot, and the rear boot space is 350 litres. But when we talk about practicality further in this video, I'll talk about the rear seats and the boot space. Shall we go inside? Right, so the interior of the Mazda MX-30 is, I personally feel, one of the strongest points of this car. There's a load of materials, including stitched leather. You get this plastic. Now, I really like the plastic because it's not piano black, it's not gloss black, which is always going to reflect sunlight. It's more of a matte black, and it looks pretty cool. You get less fingerprints on it and stuff. But what you will have noticed is around the door handles and around the center console, you get a lot of cork material. Now, I think that's quite quirky, and it is inspired from Mazda's history, because Mazda started as a company that produces cork back in Japan. So I think that's a very good nod to Mazda's history. The seats come with this really nice feeling interior, and you get, like I say, soft leather throughout the whole cabin. I think it looks pretty cool. You get the infotainment system up here is not touchscreen, but you also get this I think it's 7-inch. You get this 7-inch touchscreen system down here, which you can use to control your climate controls. Now, I think that's pretty cool. Even though they have done it as a touchscreen, they put it separate to the touchscreen at the top, which is controlled via this sort of circular drive button, and you've got shortcuts for home and for audio and navigation. It is pretty easy to use. The instrument cluster in front of the driver as well is nice and simple, black with, you know, just white dials. Easy to see, easy to read, easy to understand. I think the entire interior of this car is intuitive. You've got storage throughout the car, although how do I open this? There we go. Storage throughout the car, cup holders in the middle. You've got a glove box at the front as well. You've got door bins, which are a reasonable size for a car of this size. Now I'll tell you a little bit about the practicality of the car. So how practical is it? Well, I've already spoken about the doors. You have to open the front door in order to open the rear passenger door. And even when you do open the rear passenger door, you don't get a lot of room for passengers to get in and out. It is a bit of a tight squeeze. Ugh. And inside, for passengers, particularly that are a little bit taller, you're going to struggle with leg room. although that's quite a handy feature. There's some buttons here that you can use at the back to move the front seats in order to help you get in and out. Headroom is okay. Again, if you're on the taller side, you will be rubbing your hair on your head on the ceiling. And also, you're gonna struggle to close the doors if it's just you. You're always gonna need somebody else to close the front doors for you. In the boot, like I've already mentioned, you get 350 litres of boot space. It's pretty much the same as the electric version of the car. You can put the seats down with a 60-40 split, and there's no space under there. It's just a load of tools. So this is it. This is the space you've got. You've got some sockets for, well, a 3-pin socket actually, which is pretty cool. But other than that, that's your practicality. So what is it like to drive, and is it comfortable? Now technically that's 2 questions, but I'll try to answer both of them. So in terms of driving this car, this is a plug-in hybrid, but it doesn't drive like most plug-in hybrids that you've ever driven before. It is powered by the electric motor, which is powered by the batteries, but then that rotary engine will kick in and it will give you a higher range. Now that rotary engine does not actually power the wheels. That rotary engine uses a generator to power the motors or to charge up the battery. So you're never really powering the wheels directly using the rotary engine. It's run basically as an electric car with an onboard generator. So what are the different driving modes? Well, one of the differences between this car and the electric version is this selector here, which you can use to change the driving modes. So the 3 driving modes are normal, which is what I'm in currently. There's an EV mode and there's a charge mode. So in the normal mode, you're basically driving under electric power until the battery goes down to 43%. And that's when that rotary engine will kick in and provide more charge for the battery and therefore power the wheels. When it comes to the EV mode, that's purely EV. In that mode, the electric motor will run the car until the batteries are dead, and then the rotary engine will kick in and it will continue your journey. Again, providing power through that generator and therefore giving you that electric vehicle driving feel, which is, you know, instant torque, nice smooth drive, comfortable throughout the journey. And the last version is the charge mode, and in that you can set what level of battery you would like to charge to, and that rotary engine would charge the batteries. So basically, long story short, this car is essentially run on electric power. It's just that rotary engine that provides you with more electric power. And I think that's a pretty cool idea, because it means that you still get that electric driving feel, you still get that instant torque and acceleration, and around the city it's perfect because you can get around traffic and you can accelerate where you need to. On long journeys, however, I imagine that electric charge runs out pretty quick and you're having to use the rotary engine. But combine the rotary engine with the batteries, the 17.8 kilowatt hour battery, and you get 400 miles of range. That's what Mazda claim. When it comes to electric power only, the claimed WLTP range of this car is 53 miles, but I suspect you're not going to see that kind of range, and particularly if you're driving at higher speeds on motorways, I think the range will be closer to around 30 miles. So you will be expecting that rotary engine to kick in quite a lot. In terms of comfort, now the comfort of this car, because it's essentially an electric car and it drives like an electric car, is very good. It's nice and smooth. It's just floaty. It floats along the road, and the suspension soaks up the bumps in the road pretty well, and I think it soaks them up so well that you're never feeling uncomfortable on the road. I think if you were to go on a longer journey in this car, you won't feel sore afterwards, your back won't hurt, and that's partly to do with these seats. They're made from this really nice material which really cushions you quite well. And so I think when it comes to the purpose of this car, I think it's mostly for everyday life and for family life. It's easy to maneuver, it's easy to move around because of the electric motor. I suspect it'll be easy to park, although you don't get very great visibility out of the back window, but you do get parking sensors. And because this is the Makoto trim, the very top level trim, you get 360 degrees cameras as well. So you get all the driver conveniences that you need. So there's 3 trims. The Prime line is a very basic trim, and you get a load of standard features with it. When it comes to the exclusive line, which is the middle trim, that's the trim that Mazda think they'll sell most of. You get 18-inch alloy wheels, and I think the wheels are slightly darker. You get slightly different wheels than the Prime line, just to show that you have a slightly higher spec, and you get heated seats. Those are one of the big takeaways from that exclusive line, heated seats in the front. When it comes to the Makoto line, you get these dark alloy wheels on the car as well. Again, 18-inch alloy wheels, and you also get a load of driver conveniences like cross traffic monitoring, and you get slightly different adaptive cruise control. So basically you're paying a few £1,000s more for a couple of driver conveniences. So that's why I personally agree with Mazda, and I think the exclusive line is the one that is going to be sold the most. So what's the verdict? Well, I think Mazda have done quite well when it comes to the pure electric version of the MX-30, and I think this version just goes on to improve that, because the only problem that you would potentially have with that car, aside from the doors, is the electric range, which is roughly around 124 miles. They've solved that problem with this car, and it basically means you have a bit of security that if your electric range does run out, you can still get to where you need to go. When it comes to that claimed WLTP range of 53 miles per hour, now that's on par with some of the bigger cars like the Honda CR-V that I've been driving, or the Suzuki Across that I had on test. Both of those cars roughly give you the same amount of electric driving range. So as a small quirky city car, a small SUV, this car does quite well actually to give you great amounts of convenience. When it comes to performance, this particular car does 0 to 60 in 9.1 seconds. Now that's actually faster than the electric version of this car, which does it in 9.7 seconds. But you also get more power with this car compared to that version, because you get 170 brake horsepower, or 170 horsepower with this car, and 145 horsepower with the electric version. So it's almost a no-brainer. Why would you go for the electric version when you have this? This car costs the same as well, especially for the Prime line and the exclusive line trim. For the Makoto trim, I think it's £500 more for this version than it is for the pure electric version. But I think if everything else is the same, the price is very similar, the performance is better in this car, you get that security of a greater range, I think it's a no-brainer. This, out of the two, this is the one to go for. I think Mazda have done really well with the MX-30, and I think they've just gone on to improve that. And in doing so, they have been inspired by their heritage when it comes to that rotary engine, and of course when it comes to the interior, the cork in the interior. I think the nice little touches from Mazda, and I think it's a pretty cool car. I think it's a pretty cool car. If you're definitely considering it, go out and try one, see how it feels to drive. You'll be surprised. It's nice and smooth. So if there's any car that you would like me to try out, if there's any car that you would like my opinion on, please let me know. I'll try and get hold of that car. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments what you think about this car, whether you prefer the electric version, whether you prefer this car, or whether you prefer any other car compared to this. There are some competitors to this car, like cars like the Kia Niro. So let me know what you think, and hopefully I will see you for the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.